So, one of the arguably most important parts of any Pokemon game has to be the choice of what your starter Pokemon is going to be. As such, I thought, why not dive a bit deeper and figure out what the best starter Pokemon is in every Pokemon game. So that's what we're doing today. So sit back, relax, I'm gonna get right into this, starting of course with Generation 1 with red, blue, green, as well as yellow. But before that guys, this may be a two-parter, so at 1,000 likes you'll get part 2, keep that in mind, 1,000 likes part 2, let's get started. First up has got to be the first generation, and since Pokemon Red, Blue, and Green are practically the same and Yellow forces you to use Pikachu, I'll just go with the basic and normal choice of, what we have as options here, which are Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle. And when making the choice of which is the best, we have to take into account like the overall length of your journey here. See, the logical early game choice is Bulbasaur, which, is strong against, Misty and Brock. But I would argue that due to the lack of like many, early game fire types, Charmander serves a better purpose like mid-game against like the grass gym and has no disadvantages against, poison and psychic gyms. And by this point in the game, you can also find other fire types though, like Vulpix, or once again to mid-game, you can actually find other ones. But in early game, there aren't those. So it's really up to you to weigh the advantages there. Do you want a fire type early on, which is your starter Pokemon, which is, not going to need to kind of catch up in levels, or catch a Vulpix or Growlithe later on that can do the job equally well. So I'd argue that actually neither Bulbasaur nor Charmander should take the spot as the best, but rather Squirtle should. Now this is due to its overall great strength late game, as he overall has the least amount of things that can put him at a disadvantage there, as well as throughout the overall game, whereas both Charmander and Bulbasaur always have a great matchup, but also horrible matchup, making for a rocky foundation, whereas Squirtle's squad seems to be in a much more favorable position, having no major disadvantages, throughout the game. It's like you got a few here, but there's not a lot there that's going to disadvantage it. Sure, you won't have the best time against Misty, or really Erica either, but overall, you'll have a pretty balanced kind of playthrough. So, in my fair opinion, I think Squirtle may be the best choice for those looking as kind of a well-rounded best starter in this option. I mean, sure, Charmander is a powerhouse, and Venusaur is really strong, early game and some of the late game battles as well, but overall, I think Squirtle takes it home as the best one. Next is Pokemon Gold and Silver as well as Crystal, which all have the same gyms and Elite Four, so we can count them as the same thing. Here our choices are between Cyndaquil, Totodile, and Chikorita, and I think we have to instantly discount Chikorita as it is going to struggle the most early on, and overall in Gen 2, it was a Pokemon that struggled in story playthroughs quite a lot. Did have some advantages in PvP, if you were doing any of that, but other than that, it wasn't that great to be honest. On the other hand, your two other options are pretty decent actually, with Totodile having a really strong final stage that brings loads of power. However, the best choice for Gen 2 has got to be Cyndaquil. I mean, it evolves earlier than the other ones, evolving, into Quilava at level 14, which gives it that early advantage. And also for Gen 2, having a really strong fire type, such as this, is really useful. As well as on top of that, it's going to be really strong as a lot of the early gyms, and also with Flame Wheel and Flamethrower, it's got two great stab moves right there just on hand. And overall, like I said, against gyms, you won't have too much trouble. Same thing with the Elite Four. You'll have a lot of good matchups, some bad ones as well, but I think you'll have a pretty solid time. And making Cyndaquil the best starter for Generation 2, because overall, great moves, really overall strong, evolves earlier a bit as well, so you can get it a little bit quicker, and just a well-rounded Pokemon in all terms that really is going to benefit your team, hence why I would say it is the best one for Generation 2. So, I'll be doing Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald together because of minor differences in overall gyms and Elite Four, besides Sotopolis City, which has Juan in Emerald and Wallace in Ruby and Sapphire, though they mostly have the same teams though, they kind of have the same stuff here. However, this has to be the most difficult generation to choose the best starter for. I mean, all three starters have their great, advantages and strengths, with Trico's Final Evolution Sceptile being really useful against Wallace. Meanwhile, with Torchic and Blaziken, you have a perfect situation to steamroll through half of Steven's team in Ruby and Sapphire once you reach a champ. And we can't forget about Mudkip and of course Swampert with that water ground typing, giving it that amazing edge against so many Pokemon. So honestly, this one is really tough to answer in my honest opinion, but I will have to say, honestly, as much as I'll struggle to think of which one will be the best, I will have to say that I think Mudkip takes the cake. See, early on, you're up against Roxanne, and by this point, you will have some decent water-type moves to steamroll her team pretty easily. Then by the time you get to Watson and his, electric types, and those show up, you will already have resistance against them, making your life so much easier. And Flaneria and her fire types also end up being a cakewalk because, well, they're fire types and you got water moves, so you're fine, with some potential issues, at Norman arising, but beyond that, I find that Swampert and Mudkip is basically your best choice for Generation 3, as it's overall bulky and a powerhouse Pokemon, and it's just the best one to have on your team as a starter across the board. So definitely Swampert's gotta be the choice. So the last games for this video will be Pokemon Fire Red and Pokemon Leaf Green. Now these games are practically the same as Pokemon Red, Blue, as well as Pokemon Green, but I want to include them anyway for fun. And well, here we run into the same situation as the first generation Pokemon games, where you have, Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur as your choices. And the teams that you go up against are mostly the same, with the addition of maybe some Generation 2 Pokemon here and there, but I will say that every time I played through Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, which is a lot of times, I'm telling you, a lot of times, I played through these games way too many times, I've always found that Charmander is the best choice for me. I mean, sure, early on you will have some trouble, but I always find that it works really well, right? Sure, early on you'll have trouble against Misty and Brock, and maybe not that much against somebody like Lieutenant Surge. Like, you'll have some issues there, right? But after that, it becomes so strong. Like, Charmander evolves into a really powerful Pokemon, and sure, out of the three choices, it has the least amount of, base stats and all that initially early on, but I feel like it kind of rounds itself out across the board. However, I think the best choice, purely going by statistics, has got to be Squirtle, as it has the most advantages across the whole games from beginning to the end, right? So it's got the most advantages across the board. So just to be fair, I've got to give this one to Squirtle as well, even though Charmander is my favorable choice anytime, as I just prefer it as a Pokemon, and I find that having those fire types moves just comes in really more handy than having, Hydro Pump and whatnot with, a Squirtle or a Blastoise eventually. So I will have to say, though, personally is a Charmander, but the best choice, purely by statistics, has got to be Squirtle, with the least amount of, things coming in its way that will block its path. So that's the choice for this one. It's Squirtle again, even for Fire Red and Leaf Green. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of part 1 of this little video type of deal. I don't even know what to call it, series, whatever you want to call it. And if you guys want to see a part 2, let's get this video really fast to 1,000 likes. If we can get this to 1,000 likes within 48 hours, then you can expect another one of these within about 72 hours, give or take, however long it takes me to make these. It takes a bit of time. So, please leave a like down below. Thank you so much for watching. My name has been Ruffle Rowlet. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.